Hello, everyone. I am Todd Kenreck. I am joined by James Haeck and also Justice Arman, and we are going to be talking about Candlekeep Mysteries that just got announced at 10 in the morning. It is a brand new kind of anthology adventure that has about 17 different stories and authors, and it's really exciting. And they're also like a lot more short form. But I thought for this Todd Talks, we'd focus on first the history of Candlekeep. What is Candlekeep? And how you can integrate this also into your campaign, because I think just about every fantasy setting has a big, big library, including our real world. We have some famous ones. Some of them aren't here anymore.
Some of them burned down.
Yeah, some of them set us back by a few thousand years. But we have Candlekeep Mysteries. Justice, specifically, you actually worked on a DM's Guild product having to do with this particular library.
Yeah, so I co-led a supplement with Anthony Joyce called Elminster's Candlekeep Companion. We were looking at Descent into Avernus at the time, which has a brief stint in Candlekeep, and it's kind of always stood out to me as one of those locations that gets referenced in the realms, but had never really been collected into one spot. I had run something at my own home game a year before where I didn't know really anything about Candlekeep outside of what was in the Sword Coast Adventures guide, and really wanted to make a dedicated supplement for it and talk about libraries and how those happen in D&D. And, everybody wants to grab a random book from the shelf, but, where do you go from there?
Excellent. And was there any interesting tidbits that you got out of the writing of that book? Because I expect you had to do a pretty big lore dive.
Yeah. So I was super fortunate. In addition to MT Black, Jeremy Forbing, Trevor Armstrong, our editor Laura Hersbrunner, we had Ed Greenwood as a consultant on this project, and Ed is kind of the living embodiment of Candlekeep. He is the repertoire of Forgotten Realms lore, and so it's really great to pick his brain about all of that. There is a 2004 entry that he wrote on the Candlekeep forums that the scroll is about this big on the homepage, and it's multiple pages of lore. And I started my dive by consolidating all of that information. I felt like I was, I know method acting is a thing, but I think I was method writing, because I was this cloistered scholar huddled over staring at this tiny scroll. My back would hurt after looking at it for, 10, 20 minutes, just so close to my screen. And I would go back and forth with Ed asking these questions. There's some really cool stuff in the supplement about that I hadn't seen anywhere else before that Ed shared with me, like the story of the first tower, and how Alondo the Seer is pretty popular in Candlekeep. This person that wrote all of these prophecies that ended up being surprisingly accurate.
But yeah, fantasy Nostradamus figure.
Yeah, basically. So I guess one cool thing that I learned while writing this was that everybody who kind of started with Candlekeep, in older editions, it's kind of been, it looks like this, almost reminds me of a school of sorts in the artwork, very structured. You could count the towers in it, but over time it kind of got this look to it of like this city of towers. And when you see it in the Descent into Avernus artwork, it's so jumbled with all these different types of architecture. You can see like a sideways ship in the art, and this huge tower called Exaltation that just sparkles in the distance. But it all started with one tower when these two clerics essentially see this vision from Ogma and Denier that they're supposed to go to this place and start writing down knowledge that at some point this knowledge needs to get preserved so it doesn't get destroyed. And so they start this first tower. And before they're finished constructing this first tower, two other people see a different vision from other knowledge gods. And they come and they stop them midway through. And they're like, hey, before you get this tower done, how about we add another and we link that one to this one? And over time, more scholars, more people start receiving these visions. And eventually you have this network of towers that is supposedly so many and so confusing that nobody knows how many there are, because you can't get an angle where you see them all at one time.
Perfect. Yeah. Well, James, what did you learn with kind of like delving into Candlekeep beforehand?
So Candlekeep is just like just such a jumble and tangle, not just of towers, but of lore and history. You know, the form of the place kind of is a visual metaphor for the way it itself has grown lore-wise over the near 50 years that the Forgotten Realms have been written in. That you could explore that whole place for your entire life and never glimpse all of the books that are within it, because not only is it massive and labyrinthine, but whenever someone comes to Candlekeep, they famously have to give a gift. Is that right, Justice?
Yeah, so they have to give an entrance gift. And the entrance gift is supposed to be something that Candlekeep doesn't already have. Though in certain rare circumstances, they'll accept something that's a better copy of something they already have. For example, if something is waterlogged or you have a more complete version or a more recent version, they'll accept that. But they've turned people in the past away for hastily scribbling something on the car ride over, basically spilling their coffee on it and then turning it over and say, hey, this has never before been written. They're like, nah, you're going to have to go and find something else. And there's this story in that tiny scroll that I read about this person who basically spends their whole life savings to acquire these, these really rich books that are supposedly super rare and very expensive. And they get to the front and they immediately start turning away. They're like, sorry, we have this one. We actually have 13 copies of this one. And the person is so distraught. And these monks of the gate, these purple robed members of the Avowed, they're like, do you have anything else? And the person's like, they look in their backpack and there's this moldy, wet book that they found somewhere that they've been scribbling in the margins. And it turns out to be this coded mage wrote some secret book long ago, and it's a more complete copy. And they're so excited and immediately know what it is upon seeing it. And they end up letting the person in. Which is, it's pretty cool. And the monks, these monks at the gate, they're actually, they're kind of probing the person from the moment they get there. There's famously 3 monks at the gate at all times. There's one who receives the person and checks their gift. There's one that kind of watches the door. And the other ones are that aren't talking to the supposed seeker of wisdom, or casting detect thoughts and zones of truth, and trying to make sure that the person that's coming in has no intent to destroy knowledge or something like that.
There's almost an Aesopian quality to that story.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going to a used bookstore too.
Yeah, basically.
There's a lot of protections around Candlekeep as well, right? Like there's a shimmering shield kind of over the entire all of Candlekeep to keep it from being destroyed. It somehow lets birds in, but
yeah,
very little else. Highly protected. But this is like something we see in a lot of lore, a lot of fantasy, is a library of this kind, right? Like, then they try to make sure that you know this, that even though this is called Candlekeep, you can still use this in whatever setting you're running in. Like, virtually every world has a massive library. And so these mysteries, all 17 of them, can fit quite well into that, I believe.
I think this is a really interesting point about how modular the setting of Candlekeep is, because there's a bit of a tension there. Just as I'm sure you know, there's a lot of Forgotten Realms of what's the word for it? Realms lore that's gone into Candlekeep. So it's really quite a specific location. But if you kind of strip it down to its archetypal pieces, then absolutely there's a way to maneuver a Candlekeep-like location into just about any setting you can think of. Like Eberron has the libraries of the Morgrave University in Sharn. Wildmount has the Rexentrum archive of the Cobalt Soul, or even the the Soltris Academy there. And my hunch is that Candlekeep Mysteries will present a very maneuverable version of Candlekeep, one where some of the most intricate elements of the lore, aren't gone into because there are 17 one-shot adventures to really delve into here. But what that does is it really opens up supplements like Justice your Elminster's Candlekeep Compendium. Is it Compendium?
Elminster's Candlekeep Companion. We have written so many things that has the word guide in it on the guild that we're like, all right, it's 2020. We are not going to put the word guide in anything we release. So we have like Codex, Companion, all that sort of stuff.
Well, yeah, it sounds like all the really deep lore. Like you said, you consulted with the creator of the Forgotten Realms himself, Ed Greenwood, on the creation of it. It sounds like all of the really deep, unknown, truly forgotten stuff about it will be in that book, which is out already.
Yeah, and I should also say that Marco Bernardini, he's an Italian-based cartographer. He did a overhead map of Candlekeep, which is super ambitious, knowing how much we've already talked about how convoluted this is. And he is such an intricate cartographer, and he also sells that map outside of this supplement. If you don't want the book itself, you can go support Marco and check out what that looks like. And of course, our graphic designer, Gordon McAlpin, and the interior art by Bob Gravenstein. It's just ties it all together really well, I think.
So is this... Oh, sorry, Todd, go on.
No, go ahead. So James and I were actually in a press event having to do with the book. What all did we learn here? We there were very scant details, but it does sound like we're getting a very eclectic set of stories, going from like the dark and mysterious to Amy Vorpals.
Yes. So the brass tacks of what we learned is that it's got 17 adventures, each one by a different author, and it goes from levels 1 to 16. So I can presume there are one adventure for each of those 16 levels and one double up, probably at first level or so.
Yeah.
And they are not in any way designed to be played linearly campaign style. They are very much 10 to 12 page modules in the old tradition that have maybe a couple of Easter eggs that link a couple of them together, but that's just really for the keen-eyed people who get a thrill out of reading these stories rather than playing them and detailing all of their specificities. The most interesting detail about it all to me is that it goes beyond the Sword Coast. In at least one occasion, our own Jen Kretschmer's adventure, The Canopic Being, goes to a realm called Tashalar, unrelated to the Tasha of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. It's from a different world entirely. But this realm of Tashalar and its capital city, Tashluta, is a sort of Mediterranean realm to the east of the jungles of Cholt, on the same Choltan Peninsula, but east of the jungles in which Tomb of Annihilation took place. Sandwiched between that vast jungle land and between the magocracy of Halrua in the part of the Forgotten Realms called the Shining South. And this is a part that 5th edition has never gone to before, this Shining South area. And so even though we just get a 10 to 12 page long glimpse into this mercantile republic of city-states, I have some confidence that we will go to many other places and get a little scoop of other non-Sword Coast locations throughout the book.
Yeah, I am suspicious of like a Doctor Strange like event in the Library of Carmitage and like, jumping through portals here and there, and that sort of thing. So yeah, it is interesting that every one of these adventures does start with a book. So that was kind of like the mission statement for every single writer, and that's very interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, every adventure is spurred in some way, we don't know exactly how, by one of the uncountable volumes within the shelves of Candlekeep. Something, it might be a clue, or it might be a magical book that sucks you in. I know that Tamor Rahman, one of the newest game designers of Wizards of the Coast, who began writing his adventure while he was an intern and kind of became a staff member along the way, his Zekran's Zephyrian Tome, I believe is the name of his adventure, and it involves a genie trapped within a book. And in the process of freeing that genie and earning a wish or even companionship from him, you have to go on some grand adventure, which I suspect is within the containing book itself.
That's cool.
I think it's
Zephyr,
a
and I
very
wonder if
cool
that
idea.
has anything. Is that like the spell Zephyr Strike? That same kind of word?
Yeah, it comes from the same word. It comes from that Zephyr word.
Interesting.
I think Zephyr is a word for a specific type of wind, I think. Just like
Interesting.
Mistral or Haboob or anything
Yeah, I
like
learned catabatic winds from reading The Rime of the Bronze Mammal.
that. Yep.
Oh, it's coming off of it's cold as it goes down. Okay, that makes sense.
Yep. I'm interested, Justice. This book, Candlekeep Mysteries, doesn't seem interested in presenting a Candlekeep campaign, which I think is good. The game needs all of these one-shots. Having little modular style things is great for D&D. But does Elminster's Candlekeep Companion have anything for helping people make a Candlekeep campaign?
Oh yeah. So we also we have a chapter in this book that has a full adventure in it. For if you're running Descent into Avernus and want to change the way a chapter involving Candlekeep to spend a little bit more time there, we extrapolated out. But we also have your classic kind of adventures in setting type adventure section where we talk about, I mean, when you think about how much potential is on the internet today, we live in such an information-driven society. The idea that when you take away that access and then you put it all in one location, what kind of potential do you get for storytelling, especially when the location is so famously neutral when it comes to preserving works? There are no bad books in Candlekeep. There are people who use them for whatever they will. So, a book on like the Tome of the Dragon that talks about raising Dracoliches, written by Sam Astor, is just as neutral of a book as someone's apple crumble recipe that they traded to get in 3 years ago. So we have some, I guess one of the bigger ones are, we have sections on lore seeker expeditions. So Candlekeep will actually pay people to go find books in certain instances that they don't have, or different editions. There's also, Candlekeep is famously known for these prophecies of Alondo. There's this endless chant that when you come into Candlekeep, you've traded your book and you go into this large open air courtyard called the Court of Air, so appropriately named, and you're getting ready to get seated and spend your 10 days there requesting whichever books you want. You can hear this echoing constant chant, which is going on day and night in Candlekeep by 4 monks. And they're just reciting these endless prophecies that Alondo made before his death. So the second Baldur's Gate game, or I guess the first one, famously involves one of these prophecies that something about like this white dove will come back, and it turns out that prophecy foresaw Baal and the Baal spawn that happened with the god of murder. But the cool thing about that is you actually don't have to get super lore heavy to make your own prophecies of Alondo. It's kind of like the prophecies in Eberron, the Draconic prophecy. That you
My
could,
Eberron foo isn't quite strong enough to help you on that one.
well, mine either. I need Laura. I need a Laura lifeline.
Yeah.
These prophecies, you could potentially, as a DM, make anything that you want up and create these prophecies of your own and build a campaign around them. But we give you like 12 different prophecies that you can use. Things like the seas will dry as a lost kingdom rises to the heavens. None shall witness the fall of the one. And those are vague enough that you can kind of slot a character. Is the one a chosen one? Is it a villain that's coming? Is this talking about Atlantis coming back? That sort of thing. So there's just so much potential in getting these books, what knowledge is uncovered in this book. So you could even do something like a magical disease is affecting someone like a king or a queen, and the cure is said to be here. And you have to get into Candlekeep or find the book or something.